we're gonna jump some ponds with an unnecessary amount of tackle currently. Don't show the back. It's pond fishing supposed to be a piece of cake, easy peasy. You only need like a, backpack it at best, let alone all this. But we're going pond fishing. We're gonna catch whatever's biting. All right. I think I want to use this for a little bit. Get into the bag of chunks. Actually, you know what we should do before we get carried away? Water temp. Grill your steaks, get your pork done properly, make sure your chicken's good, but also there's a little thing on here that says catch bass. Somewhere, didn't make it on the label, but it's catch bass. Little meat thermometer. We got an algae bloom. It's got to be pretty warm water, you'd think. So this isn't super accurate using a meat thermometer for water temp because we're obviously right on the bank. This is going to warm up the fastest of any of this water, right? But it at least gives you a little idea as to what you're getting into. Yesterday we could tell the water was just cold, whether touching it, the way we caught one fish, had some fish bump a bait, like really lethargic. So I would expect that this water is going to be a little warmer. The algae bloom's kind of a sign of that. But you stick it in, it's like 61 and a half. So let's assume surface temp, it's probably more like upper 50s, maybe mid 50s even. But that just gives you a little idea that like, okay, these fish are going to be up a little more active, and then you can kind of pick your baits a little more according to how you think the fish are going to be acting at that time of day. Yesterday, I bet if we would have done it, it would have been like 50 degrees, but I forgot the meat thermometer. We got it now. We're good to go. Good to go. But the nice thing, at least with the thermometer, is you can, keep checking the water you're fishing. We'll go to another pond. It's also in the afternoon, it's like 2 o'clock. So this water's been warming up all morning. Sun's been baking on it. The next pond's bigger and clearer, so probably gonna be a little different water temp. But like I said, it's more of a mental thing to just know, like, all right, I need to slow down a little more. Maybe I need to downsize, something like that. Just get an idea of what the fish's mood should be. But I know at least here, I'm thinking they'll be biting because the water's a little warmer. But that'll change throughout the day. That'll change throughout, the body of water you're fishing, the pond you're fishing, watercolor, all that. But this little thing, most everyone's got one laying around, and it's a nice little tool to help, get your mind right. The algae bloom, I don't want to say algae, whatever that scuzz is, that green scuzz, but you look and it's kind of all over the bottom, right? You'd think like most of the time you go fish a pond, a jig, a spinnerbait, and like a vibrating jig are going to be, I think first 3 things you grab at any point in time, but really a jig and some sort of moving bait. But I don't think I'll fish a jig as much. That's kind of initial impression. Like really, you could probably just throw this, a little vibrating jig, a spinnerbait, and move, because those fish are going to be, relating a little higher in the water column. And there's a lot of wood and lay down and stuff. It might not be like this all over the pond, but just at least what we can see along here for the stretch that we're going to start fishing, winding something, I think, is going to be a little more of a player. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Tell me that's not a little tasty morsel. I'd eat it. But I'd be a really bad bass because I think I'd eat anything. All right. First thing, cinch the drag a little. Whoa! With the wind at our back. We can basically cover like the entire pond in 2 casts. Oh, that was either a stump or a bite. Probably a stump. However, I got one. First cast. Look how big it is. Hey, that's fun. Come here, buddy. Dude, he boiled up. There's like a lily pad or something out there that he was sitting next to. Nice little guy. Long and lean. Trying to feed up a little bit. Thanks, sir. Swam away. First cast is either bad luck or good luck. I tend to lean towards bad luck, but I think for the sake of what we're doing today, I'll believe it's good luck, right? Like, better to assume that than the other, the latter. Oh my God, one bit it. Got him. We got him fired up. We got. Are you kidding me? Just winching them in. Just winching them in. Smaller than the last one, yet very much enjoyed the chatterbait. Oh, wow. It's like a couple of chatterbaits long. Got chatterbaits covered in scuzz. A tail got ripped off. Somewhere in there. A little longer that time, but there's like that scuzz. There's one. That scuzz is out like, I don't know, it almost feels like clumps of grass, but like a lot of these ponds don't get, you know, grass like you'd see in Wisconsin, Minnesota, stuff like that. Just another fine springtime largemouth. That's fun. It's like catching fish is fun whenever, but when you do it, you know, on a cool little, you know, a pond, it's like back to your roots, right? I think everyone grew up fishing on some form of a small body of water, whether it was a small county lake or a pond like this. Like I grew up fishing ponds, you know, in this area. And it's a lot more fun to come out and just kind of have the thing to yourself and catch fish. Jesus, oh my, that dude cracked it. Holy cow. They got bigger. Look at this. It's like some coontail. Someone's been stocking it. Maybe. They're all like cookie cutters, but again, I'm not complaining. He liked it so bad he wanted to come back. So apparently somewhere that direction, there's a large wad of largemouths. Some may call it a school, maybe an escuela. Oh no. I feel like I've reeled too long without catching one. I got all scuzzed up. Dang. And then I'm hooked on a log. We went from like the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Give me my chatterbait back, log, please. One downside to pond fishing is sometimes it's hard to get your stuff back. But you just change the angle, we're good. You've probably changed the angle on these fish too. Try a little different. It worked. See, even when you're fishing a pond, doing those little adjustments can pay off. Granted, I went one cast without catching one, so, you know, feel a little spoiled, but point is, change the angle, so instead of going downwind, I came crosswind. A little different look, and my goodness, this guy ate it. Holy cow. There we go. Chatterbait, brand new, getting a workout. That's cool. They're not big, but it's still fun. And I'm not complaining because we're catching fish. I should have put some super glue on this trailer, but it's holding up pretty nicely. There's like a, there's a huge brush pile where that log is out in the middle. Like a, probably, let's say 20 feet long, maybe. Just a whole complex of, that's that clump of grass. But big thing of brush. And then a lot of, only because I know this, I fished this pond a little bit. That one ate it right coming up the drop. There's scattered little stumps really from where we are here to the top side of the pond. Once you get down to the bottom side, there's a few brush piles, but that's kind of what it seems like these fish are on, is this little depth change. It's probably 8 feet deep out there, and then it gets deeper obviously down by the dam. But this little shelf almost is kind of right about where we started fishing. Like I said, I only knew that because I had fished this pond before, but if you were just looking at it first time, dam, you know, usually very flat, man-made looking. Top side is obviously shallower, and you're gonna have some sort of change because this is a natural drainage. There's 2 creeks that came in to form this pond. So at some point, this landscape, and you can even tell it looking around how it gets, the hills get a little steeper coming to the deep side of the pond, and we're kind of right in that middle ground of where the bank's a little flatter and it gets a little steeper. And that's kind of that little transition out here that we're casting at and catching some bass. You know, looking at yesterday to today. Yesterday we went turkey hunting in the morning. It was rainy, it was cloudy, you know, just a kind of a drizzly spring morning. And since turkey hunting didn't go so hot right away, we decided to go fish some ponds. And you could just tell in that area, those ponds we were fishing, there's one, the water was cold. Like, it just, the fish weren't active. I caught one on a spinnerbait, but even the way it bit it, it just kind of loaded up on it, right? It didn't thump it. Like, these fish are hitting it really good. I didn't have my thermometer yesterday, but we were checking ponds. They just, I mean, it felt cold. This pond feels warmer. We saw the water temp. And so instead of throwing that same big bladed spinnerbait, because I know the water's a little warmer, I decided to go with something like a ChatterBait that I can fish a little more quickly. Obviously, this will catch them in cold water. You can stroke it, you can, you know, slow wind it, but I'm fishing it like I would, you know, just kind of standard issue. Cast it out, reel it in. I've hopped it a little bit, but that water temp and paying attention to that little bit of difference right out the gate is kind of the ticket. Like, it gave you a clue that here's something you do. I don't need to worry about slow rolling something. I don't need to worry about dragging a jig real slow or even fishing, you know, something a little more finessey. This is the right kind of water temp for fish to bite, and they absolutely are biting. You know, the stuff we looked at yesterday, it was a deeper map. There was like kind of a, you know, real basic contour map, said it was like 20 feet deep down by the dam. But a lot of ponds don't have that. And you can, you know, if we'll walk down to the dam in a little bit, but if you look down the bottom side, that distance is how much water, generally speaking, is on the front side. So if it looks like 30 feet, you might have 30 feet of water on the front side. If it's 10 feet, 12 feet, something like that, that's kind of your max depth. This one's not as deep. This one's like somewhere in the 17, 15. It's probably a little more silted in than that, but you know, those kind of things too. If you're trying to find a pond that you think is going to be fishing really good, if you only have a day to fish on a weekend, you know, generally if you can find these shallower ponds, they're going to be warmer, and because of that, the fish are going to be a lot more active. And that's, you know, again, what we're seeing in this pond versus what we ran into yesterday. You could throw a chatterbait on, you know, I think whatever. If you only got, you know, a 7-foot medium heavy, you could throw it on it. I look at a chatterbait or a vibrating jig like a crankbait. It helps to have a, you know, the appropriate rod and reel and line just to get a better landing ratio. This is a 7.4. It's basically a crankbait rod. This is a slower gear ratio. It's a 6.8 to 1. And then I run 20-pound fluorocarbon. The 6.8, You know, I'd maybe go up if it was more of like a summertime kind of thing. But I like this because it's versatile. I can fish it, you know, if the water's cooler and you're just kind of yo-yoing, you don't get carried away with burning it too quickly. If I do need to burn it, all I gotta do is just reel a little faster. But it seems like a nice middle ground to catch up with the fish when they are knocking the tar out of it, and you can kind of just be a little more versatile. But, you know, pretty straightforward thing. And then you can throw a big crankbait on it, you know, change your line and crank a big plug in the summertime. So it's kind of a good all-around combination, but it helps to have that rod. Something with that, you know, kind of parabolicness is a really big deal to make sure that that blade collapses and that hook drives in that fish's mouth. If you're losing a lot of fish, it's probably because your setup's a little too heavy. You know, fishing in general, it doesn't matter if you're talking bass fishing, you're talking crappie fishing, catfish, you name it. Water temp is a very important thing in the spring, and finding that warmer water is super, super crucial to being successful. Paying attention to water temps, whether it's a pond, a lake, a reservoir, whether you're in Alabama to Minnesota, really, really important, and absolutely helps make your day of fishing much, much better if you can find that warmer water in the spring.